The night everything changed. Damian Blackwood stood alone on the 92nd floor of his Manhattan tower, watching rain hammer against the windows like 1,000 angry fists. The clock on his desk glowed 1:47 in the morning, but sleep was a stranger he no longer recognized. His pharmaceutical empire, Blackwood Industries, was worth $43 billion. His name appeared on the cover of every business magazine. The world saw a genius who revolutionized medical technology before his 35th birthday. Nobody saw the truth. The attack begins. His hand started trembling first. It always began that way. The tremor spread up his arms like poison through his veins. His chest tightened until each breath felt like dragging glass through his lungs. The walls seemed to press inward, the ceiling dropped lower, and the darkness behind his eyes whispered terrible things. Damian grabbed the edge of his marble desk, knuckles white, fighting the wave of terror that had no name and no reason. His condition had a medical term, severe autonomic panic syndrome, but labels meant nothing at 2 in the morning when reality itself felt like it was dissolving. The lights flickered once during a crack of thunder, and that was enough. The darkness swallowed him whole. He stumbled backward, his shoulder hitting the bookshelf. Glass shattered. Books tumbled. His carefully controlled world fell apart in seconds. An unexpected presence. Rosalie Jensen heard the crash from 3 offices away. She paused mid-wipe of a conference table, her cleaning rag frozen in her hand. The executive floor should have been empty. She had worked this shift for 6 months and never encountered a single person after midnight. Her heart beat faster as she moved down the hallway, her worn sneakers silent on the polished floor. Another sound reached her ears, something between a gasp and a groan, desperate and human and wrong. She pushed open the heavy door to the corner office. The man she found barely resembled the confident billionaire whose photograph hung in the lobby. Damian Blackwood sat crumpled against the wall, his expensive suit jacket torn at the shoulder, his face pale and slick with sweat. His eyes were wild, unfocused, seeing things that existed only in his mind. The touch that changed everything. Rosalie dropped her cleaning supplies and rushed forward. Her nursing school training, abandoned 2 years ago when her mother got sick, kicked in automatically. She knelt beside him, her hand reaching for his wrist to check his pulse. The instant her skin touched his, something impossible happened. Damian's breathing steadied. The tremors racing through his body slowed and stopped. The crushing weight on his chest lifted as if someone had opened a window in a suffocating room. His vision cleared, and he found himself staring into the most genuine brown eyes he had ever seen. Rosalie felt it too. A warmth spread from the point of contact, a connection she could not explain and did not understand. Her own racing heart calmed. The nervous energy she always carried settled into stillness. They stayed frozen like that, her fingers against his wrist, his eyes locked on hers, while the storm raged outside and time seemed to forget them both. Breaking the silence. Damian spoke first, his voice rough. "How did you do that?" Rosalie blinked, suddenly aware of how close they were, of her hand still touching him, of the intimacy of this moment with a man she had only seen from a distance. "Do what, sir?" "Make it stop." His free hand gestured vaguely at himself. "The panic. It just stopped." She pulled her hand back, heat rising in her cheeks. "I did not do anything. I just checked your pulse." But the second she broke contact, his breathing hitched again. The tremor returned to his fingers. Rosalie saw the fear flash across his face and acted without thinking. She placed both hands on his shoulders, steady and warm. Instant calm. Damian closed his eyes, and for the first time in months, maybe years, he felt peace. "Who are you?" "Rosalie. I clean the offices at night." "Rosalie," he repeated her name like a prayer. "I need you to stay. Please. Just for a little while." The hours between. She should have left. She should have called security or a doctor or anyone who knew how to handle whatever this was. Instead, Rosalie sat beside Damien Blackwood on the floor of his office while the storm gradually passed. They talked in fragments. He told her about the condition that had stolen sleep from him since childhood, about the medications that did nothing, about the specialist who said his nervous system was wired differently and nobody knew why. She told him about growing up in a small town in Idaho, about her mother's illness that drained their savings, about cleaning offices to send money home. He learned she had never been in a relationship, had never had time for romance or connection. She learned he was more alone than anyone she had ever met, surrounded by people but isolated by wealth and expectation. Somewhere around 4 a.m, his head rested against her shoulder. Her hand stayed in his. The tremors were gone. His breathing was deep and even. "I have not slept without medication in 15 years, he whispered. "But right now, I feel like I could." Rosalie felt tears prick her eyes, though she could not have said why. "Then sleep. I will stay." The morning after. Dawn crept through the windows, painting the office in shades of pink and gold. Damien woke slowly, awareness returning in pieces. The scent of something floral and clean. The warmth of another person. The absence of the usual morning panic. He opened his eyes to find Rosalie still beside him, her head tilted back against the wall, her eyes closed. She had stayed the entire night. Reality came crashing back. His board meeting was in 3 hours. The press conference to announce their new cancer treatment was scheduled for noon. His assistant would arrive soon. The world would see him like this, vulnerable and human and broken. He could not let that happen. He could not let anyone know about this condition, about this weakness, about the mysterious woman who somehow held the key to his sanity. The disappearance. Rosalie stirred and opened her eyes. For one perfect moment, they simply looked at each other, both feeling the weight of something that had shifted between them in the darkness. Then Damien stood, pulling away, rebuilding the walls. His voice came out colder than he intended. "Thank you for your help. I would appreciate your discretion about what happened here." Hurt flashed across her face, quick and sharp. She stood as well, smoothing her uniform. "Of course, sir. I understand." She gathered her cleaning supplies with shaking hands. She had been foolish to think this meant something, to imagine that a man like him would see her as anything more than a convenient solution to an embarrassing problem. By the time Damien emerged from his private bathroom 15 minutes later, showered and changed and armored in a fresh suit, Rosalie was gone. He told himself it was better this way. Safer. Smarter. But his hand started trembling again the moment he sat at his desk. He pressed the intercom. "Security, I need the personnel file for the night cleaning staff. There was someone here last night. I need to speak with her again." The response came back cold and final. "Sir, the night cleaner submitted her resignation an hour ago. Effective immediately." No forwarding information was left. Damien's world tilted. She was gone. And she had taken his only source of peace with her. The search begins. 3 days passed like 3 years. Damien Blackwood tore through every database, every record, every possible lead. He had Rosalie's name and nothing else. No phone number. No address. No emergency contact. She had worked for the cleaning company for 6 months and left behind only ghost trails and empty spaces. His assistant knocked hesitantly on his office door. "Sir, Dr. Hammond is here for your appointment." Damien waved him in without looking up from his computer screen. The neurologist entered with his tablet and a concerned expression that had become permanent over their 5 years of treatment. Dr. Hammond studied his patient with clinical precision. "You look worse than last month. How many hours of sleep this week?" 12. Total. Damien's voice was flat. "That is medically dangerous. Your cognitive function will collapse." Your heart could develop arrhythmia. We discussed this. I know what we discussed. Damien finally looked up, and the desperation in his eyes made the doctor pause. What if I told you I found something that worked? Something that calmed the attacks completely? Dr. Hammond leaned forward. What medication? Not medication. A person. The doctor's expression shifted from hope to concern. Physical contact? Her touch stopped everything. Instantly. I slept for the first time in years. Where is she now? Gone. Vanished. I cannot find her. Dr. Hammond set down his tablet slowly. Damien, listen carefully. If your nervous system has created a dependency on a specific person, that is psychologically dangerous. If she is gone, you need to accept it and move forward with traditional treatment. Traditional treatment does not work. Then we try something new. But you cannot build your stability around another human being. That gives them complete power over your life. Damien turned back to his computer. Session over. A new life taking root. 2,000 miles away in Portland, Oregon, Rosalie sat in a clinic waiting room, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles ached. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A television in the corner played the news on mute. The nurse called her name. 15 minutes later, Rosalie walked out of the examination room with test results that rewrote her entire future. She made it to her car before the tears came. She sat in the parking lot, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing while reality reshaped itself around her. Pregnant. 8 weeks. Twins. She drove to the tiny apartment she shared with her mother, the test results burning in her purse like evidence of a crime. How could she explain this? One night. One connection. One moment of vulnerability that resulted in 2 lives she had no idea how to support. Her mother was sleeping when she arrived. Cancer treatment left her exhausted most days. Rosalie made tea she did not drink and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the positive pregnancy test. She thought about Damien dismissing her that morning, about the coldness in his voice, about the way he had pulled away as if she were contaminated. She thought about billionaires and maids and the way the world treated women who got pregnant by powerful men. Scandal. Accusations. Assumptions that she had planned it, trapped him, wanted his money. The truth was simpler and sadder. She had comforted someone in pain. She had stayed because he asked her to. And somewhere in those quiet hours, something had happened between them that neither of them planned or expected. The decision to disappear. Thomas Grant knocked on her door the next morning. He was a friend from her old nursing school days, someone who had checked on her mother when Rosalie was working in New York. He took one look at her face and stepped inside. What happened? She told him everything. The storm. The panic attack. The night they spent talking. The connection she could not explain. The pregnancy test results. Thomas listened without judgment. When she finished, he asked the only question that mattered. What do you need? To disappear. Completely. Before anyone finds out. You should tell him. He deserves to know. Rosalie shook her head. He is about to launch the biggest pharmaceutical breakthrough in decades. The press follows him everywhere. If I show up pregnant, they will destroy both of us. They will say I seduced him for money. They will make my children's lives a circus. So you are going to raise twins alone? Yes. Thomas studied her for a long moment. Then you are going to need help. 2 years of silence. The months that followed were the hardest of Rosalie's life. Her mother passed away 3 weeks after she learned about the pregnancy, cancer finally claiming the battle. Rosalie sold everything to pay the funeral costs and moved to a smaller apartment in a different part of Portland. She worked 3 jobs through her pregnancy. Waitressing in the morning. Data entry in the afternoon. Night shift at a convenience store when her belly grew too large for the restaurant uniform. Thomas checked on her weekly, bringing groceries she was too proud to ask for and baby items he found at thrift stores. When the twins were born on a snowy February morning, Rosalie held them and cried tears that were equal parts joy and grief. Lily had her eyes. Jacob had Damien's distinctive jawline and the same intensity in his infant gaze. She whispered to them in the hospital room, "You are everything. You are loved. That is all that matters." But everything was not all that mattered. Bills mattered. Childcare mattered. Sleep mattered. Rosalie learned to function on 4 hours of rest and coffee that tasted like desperation. She learned to nurse 2 babies at once, to change diapers with one hand, to silence her own needs until they barely whispered. She never told anyone who their father was. Not Thomas. Not the nosy neighbor who asked too many questions. Not the daycare worker who commented on how much Jacob looked like someone famous. She built a wall around that night in New York, sealing it off like a room she could never enter again. The downward spiral. In Manhattan, Damien was falling apart in slow motion. His company thrived. Blackwood Industries announced breakthrough after breakthrough. Their cancer treatment entered final trials. Their stock price tripled. The board praised him as a visionary. Behind closed doors, he was dying. Bradley Cole, his CFO and oldest friend, finally confronted him during a late-night strategy session. "You need help. Real help. You barely function anymore." Damien stared at the financial projections without seeing them. "I am functional enough. You collapsed during the investor meeting last week. You forgot an entire presentation yesterday. The board is starting to notice. Let them notice." Bradley slammed his hand on the table. "What happened to you? 2 years ago you were sharp, focused, unstoppable. Now you are a ghost." Damien said nothing. How could he explain that a woman he spent one night with had somehow rewired his entire nervous system? That her absence felt like missing a vital organ? That he had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars searching for her and found nothing but dead ends? He kept one thing from that night. A small cleaning cloth she had used to wipe dust from his desk before everything changed. It still carried the faintest trace of her scent. He kept it in his desk drawer and held it during the worst attacks, pathetic and desperate and completely alone. The breaking point. The panic attacks increased in frequency and severity. Dr. Hammond tried 12 different medication combinations. None worked. Damien started canceling appearances. Missing meetings. Avoiding the press. The media began speculating about illness, addiction, mental breakdown. The board called an emergency session. Bradley stood beside Damien as 6 directors delivered their ultimatum. "We need you stable or we need you gone. The company cannot survive this uncertainty." Damien looked at them with hollow eyes. "I am trying. Try harder. Or resign." That night, Damien stood at his office window, 92 floors above the city, and wondered how much longer he could keep pretending he wanted to survive this. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Another tech billionaire announcing a family foundation with his wife and children, all of them smiling for the cameras, picture perfect and whole. Something cracked inside him. He picked up his phone and dialed the private investigator for the 15th time. Expand the search. Check hospital records, birth certificates, anything. I do not care what it costs. Find her. Collision course. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Rosalie was wrestling 2 energetic toddlers into their jackets when her phone rang. Thomas's name appeared on the screen. "I got you an interview," he said without preamble. "Major tech company in New York. They need medical researchers and your nursing background qualifies. The pay is triple what you make now." "Thomas, I cannot go back to New York. You have to. You are drowning here. The twins need stability. You need a future that is not 3 jobs and 2 hours of sleep. She looked at Lily and Jacob, both of them growing so fast, needing so much. What company? Blackwood Industries. Her heart stopped. No. Absolutely not. Rosalie, it is a huge company. Thousands of employees. You would never see him. And even if you did, 2 years have passed. You look different. You are different. Take the interview. If it feels wrong, you walk away. She wanted to refuse. She should have refused. But that night, when she counted the money left in her account and realized she was $300 short on rent, she sent her resume. The interview was scheduled for the following month. Fate was pulling them back together, and neither of them knew the storm that was coming, the reunion. Rosalie's hands shook as she adjusted her borrowed blazer in the bathroom mirror of a coffee shop 6 blocks from Blackwood Industries headquarters. She had not set foot in Manhattan for 2 years. The city felt different now, sharper and colder, or maybe she was the one who had changed. Thomas had agreed to watch the twins for the day. Lily had cried when Rosalie left. Jacob had stared at her with those intense eyes that looked so much like Damien's it hurt. She walked the 6 blocks slowly, rehearsing answers to interview questions, reminding herself that Blackwood Industries employed over 4,000 people. The chances of seeing him were microscopic. The building rose before her like a glass mountain, all steel and ambition and wealth. She joined the stream of people flowing through the revolving doors, her stomach twisting with memories and fear. She never made it to the interview. The street scene. The traffic signal changed on 5th Avenue. Rosalie stepped off the curb, her mind occupied with trying to remember which floor her interview was on. The sound of screeching tires did not register until too late. A delivery truck swerved to avoid a taxi. The taxi jumped the curb. People scattered. Rosalie tried to move, but her heel caught in a grate. She fell hard, her knee hitting the pavement, her purse spilling its contents across the sidewalk. Pain exploded through her leg. Hands reached for her, voices asked if she was okay, but the world was spinning and her vision grayed at the edges. Through the chaos, she heard a voice that stopped her heart. Get back. Everyone move. Someone call an ambulance. Damien had been leaving a breakfast meeting 3 blocks away when his driver spotted the commotion. Something made him tell the driver to stop. Some instinct he could not name. He pushed through the crowd gathering around the fallen woman. He saw her face and time stopped. Rosalie. Her name fell from his lips like a prayer and an accusation. She looked up, and their eyes met for the first time in 2 years. The recognition hit them both like lightning. The truth surfaces. Damien dropped to his knees beside her, his hands hovering, afraid to touch her, afraid she would vanish again. You are hurt. I am fine. Her voice shook. I just need to stand up. You are bleeding. Your knee. She looked down and saw blood soaking through her torn pants. The pain seemed distant, less important than the fact that Damien Blackwood was kneeling on a dirty sidewalk staring at her like she had risen from the dead. His driver appeared with a first aid kit. Damien took it without looking away from Rosalie. I am taking you to the hospital. No. I have an interview. I cannot miss it. Interview where? She hesitated too long. His eyes widened. Blackwood Industries. You were coming to interview at my company. I did not know. Thomas set it up. I would never have come if I knew. Something in her voice made him pause. A desperation that went beyond embarrassment. He helped her to her feet gently, and the moment his hand touched her arm, it happened again. His constant low-level anxiety dissolved. The tremor in his fingers steadied. 2 years of suffering eased in a single touch. Rosalie felt it too. That same impossible connection, stronger now, like her body remembered his and reached for it despite everything. Hospital revelations. Damien insisted on taking her to his private physician. Rosalie was too shaken to argue effectively. They sat in the back of his car in silence, the air between them heavy with 2 years of unspoken words. The doctor cleaned and bandaged her knee, declared nothing was broken, and recommended rest. Damien waited in the hallway, pacing, checking his watch compulsively. Bradley called 3 times. He ignored every call. When Rosalie emerged, limping slightly, Damien was there immediately. "Let me take you home." "That is not necessary. Please." The word came out raw. "I need to know you are safe. After last time, after you disappeared, I cannot just let you walk away again." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw what 2 years had done. He was thinner. Shadows lived under his eyes. His hands trembled constantly now, not just during attacks. "You look tired." "I have not slept properly since the night you left." The confession hung between them. Rosalie felt tears burn behind her eyes. "Damien, I cannot do this. I have a life now. Responsibilities. I cannot be whatever you need me to be." "What responsibilities?" She hesitated. This was the moment. The truth was right there, demanding to be spoken. But before she could answer, her phone rang. Thomas's name flashed on the screen. She answered, and Thomas's panicked voice filled her ear. "Rosalie, Jacob is sick. High fever. I am taking him to the emergency room. You need to come now." All the blood drained from her face. "I am on my way." The hospital crisis. Damien saw her expression change from guarded to terrified in seconds. "What is wrong?" "I have to go. Right now. Please, just take me to Portland General Hospital. That is across the city. Traffic will take an hour. I do not care. I have to get there." He saw genuine fear in her eyes. "My helicopter is on the roof of the medical building 2 blocks from here. We can be there in 15 minutes. She stared at him. "Why would you do that?" "Because you are terrified and I can help." "Let me help." They ran. The helicopter lifted off 7 minutes later, Rosalie gripping the seat, her phone pressed to her ear as Thomas updated her. Fever of 104 degrees. Possible seizure. Doctors were running tests. Damien sat across from her, watching her face, seeing a side of her he had never witnessed. Maternal terror. All-consuming fear that transcended everything else. "Who is sick?" he asked quietly. She looked at him, and the words came out before she could stop them. "My son." The helicopter seemed to stop mid-air. "You have a son?" "Twins. A son and a daughter. They just turned 2. Damien's mind raced through calculations. 2 years old. 2 years since that night. His hands started shaking for an entirely different reason. "Rosalie, when were they born?" "February 14th. That is 9 months after." He could not finish the sentence. Could not make his throat work. She turned away, looking out the window at the city below. "Yes. The emergency room." They landed on the hospital roof. Rosalie ran before the blades stopped spinning, Damien following, his world tilting on its axis. Security tried to stop them. Damien flashed his medical foundation credentials and they let him through. Thomas stood in the pediatric emergency room, holding a little girl with dark curls and enormous brown eyes. Beside him, through a glass window, doctors worked on a small boy with an oxygen mask. Rosalie ran to the window, her hands pressed against the glass. "What is happening? Is he okay?" The doctor emerged. "Febrile seizure. We have his temperature down. He is stable. You can see him in a moment." She nearly collapsed with relief. Thomas caught her, still holding the little girl. "He is going to be fine, Rosalie. He is tough." That was when Damien saw her. The little girl in Thomas's arms turned her head, and he was staring at a feminine version of his own childhood face. Same nose. Same serious expression. Same way of tilting her head when studying something new. The little boy in the hospital bed opened his eyes, and even from here, Damien could see they were identical to the ones he saw in the mirror every morning. Thomas noticed Damien for the first time and went pale. "Oh no." Rosalie turned and saw Damien staring at the children with an expression of absolute shock. "Damien. They are mine." It was not a question. The public explosion. What none of them knew was that a hospital employee had recognized Damien Blackwood arriving via helicopter with an injured woman. Photos were taken. Within 30 minutes, gossip sites exploded with speculation. Within an hour, news vans surrounded the hospital. By the time Jacob was cleared to leave, the story had gone viral. Billionaire Damien Blackwood spotted at hospital with mysterious woman and 2 children. Sources claim the children resemble him strongly. No comment from Blackwood Industries. Bradley called 17 times. The board sent an emergency summons. The press demanded answers. Damien ignored all of it. He sat in the hospital room holding his son for the first time, this small warm weight in his arms, and felt something fundamental shift in his chest. Lily sat in Rosalie's lap, staring at Damien with serious curiosity. "Who is he, Mama?" Rosalie's voice broke. "Someone important, baby." Damien looked at her over Jacob's head. "Why did you not tell me?" "Because I was afraid. Afraid of what it would do to your life. Afraid of what people would say about me. Afraid you would think I planned it. I spent 2 years searching for you. I would have given anything to know. I know that now. But then, all I knew was that you pulled away the morning after. You made me feel like a mistake." The words hit him like a physical blow. "You were never a mistake. You were the only thing I have ever gotten right. The choice." They discharged Jacob that evening with medication and instructions to monitor his fever. Rosalie tried to leave through a back entrance, but the press found them anyway. Cameras flashed. Questions shouted. Microphones thrust forward. "Mr. Blackwood, are these your children? How long have you been hiding this relationship? What does this mean for Blackwood Industries?" Damien stepped in front of Rosalie and the twins, his body a shield. Security pushed forward, creating a barrier. They made it to his car, but the damage was done. The photos were already online. The speculation was trending worldwide. In the car, Lily fell asleep against Rosalie's shoulder. Jacob curled in Damien's lap, still feverish but stable. Thomas sat in the front seat, silent and uncomfortable. Damien's phone buzzed constantly. Finally, Bradley's text cut through, "Board meeting tomorrow morning. They want answers or they want your resignation. This is serious." Rosalie saw his expression. "This is what I was afraid of. I ruined your life." "No." He looked at her, then at the children, then back at her. "You gave me one. I just did not know it until now." The morning after. The board meeting was brutal. 6 directors sat around the table, Bradley at the end, looking sympathetic but helpless. Photos of Damien at the hospital filled the screen behind them. "You hid children from us. From the public. From investors. This is a catastrophic breach of trust." Damien stood at the window, watching the sun rise over Manhattan. "I did not hide them. I did not know they existed until yesterday. That somehow makes it worse. You had an affair with an employee that resulted in children and you were too careless to even know about it." He turned slowly. She was not an affair. She was the woman who saved my life. And if you force me to choose between this company and my family, I choose my family. The room went silent. You built this company. You are Blackwood Industries. Then Blackwood Industries will learn to exist without me. I spent 35 years chasing success and it gave me nothing but insomnia and panic attacks. I spent one night with Rosalie and she gave me peace. I have 2 children I did not know existed and they need a father. That matters more than any of this. He walked toward the door. If you leave now, you lose everything. Your position, your shares, your voting rights. The non-compete clause means you cannot work in pharmaceuticals for 5 years. Damien paused at the door. I know. I am leaving anyway. The new beginning. He found Rosalie at a playground near her hotel, watching Lily and Jacob on the swings. Thomas sat on a nearby bench, giving her space but staying close enough to help. She looked exhausted, beautiful, and terrified. Damien sat beside her. I resigned. She whipped around. What? Why would you do that? Because I spent 2 years miserable without you. Because I just found out I have children who need me. Because the only time I have felt truly calm in my entire life is when you are near me. I am not losing that again. Damien, you do not have to sacrifice everything for us. We managed before. We will manage again. I do not want you to manage. I want you to thrive. I want our children to have everything they need. I want to know them, to be their father, to make up for 2 years I missed. Tears ran down her face. The world is going to say terrible things about me. That I trapped you. That I wanted your money. Let them. I know the truth. You ran away to protect me. You raised our children alone. You worked yourself to exhaustion trying to give them a good life. You are the strongest person I have ever known. He took her hand carefully, and the effect was immediate. His breathing steadied. The constant tremor eased. After 2 years of suffering, touching her felt like coming home. I do not have my company anymore, he said. But I have savings. I have skills. And I have you, if you will have me. Not because you fix my panic attacks, but because you make me want to be better than the broken man I was. Rosalie looked at their children playing, at Thomas watching protectively, at Damien sitting beside her offering everything he had left. She thought about the past 2 years of struggle and loneliness and fear. She thought about the night they met, when 2 broken people found unexpected comfort in each other. I do not need you to be perfect, she whispered. I just need you to be here. I am here. I am not leaving. Not ever again. Lily ran over, climbing into Rosalie's lap. Jacob followed, reaching for Damien with the easy trust of a child who did not yet understand what fathers were supposed to be but recognized safety when he felt it. Damien held his son and felt, for the first time in his life, like he was exactly where he belonged. Not in a boardroom. Not at the top of a building. Not chasing success or fighting panic or running from shadows. Here. With them. With her. The future was uncertain. The press would be vicious. There would be legal battles over his company exit. Money would be tight until he figured out what came next. Nothing about this was easy or simple or the way anyone planned their life. But when Rosalie leaned against his shoulder and both children fell asleep in their arms, Damien felt something he had spent 35 years searching for. Peace. Not because his condition was cured. Not because the panic was gone forever. But because he was no longer alone in fighting it. Because he had a reason beyond himself to keep trying. Because love, it turned out, was a better medicine than anything his company ever created. The 4 of them sat in the playground as the sun climbed higher, a new family built from broken pieces, imperfect and uncertain and absolutely worth fighting for. And for the first time in 2 years, when Damien closed his eyes, he slept.